The lesson isn't always necessarily in the success. The lesson is in the failure.
Hello children, welcome to another episode of the Scar Tissue Podcast. Today I'm joined by Justin McDonell, the man that we can thank in Australia, UK and a few other countries for bringing us Anytime Fitness. So if you, listen, I think it's not hard to drive past the street without seeing an Anytime Fitness especially in Australia. There's over 500 of them in this country alone. He has the master franchise agreement for that. Also for Orangetheory and Extend Bar. So between them, there's well over 500 gyms in Australia alone. He's got the licenses in UK and a few other countries, as I said. So this is the reason why I wanted to speak to Justin is because I've been in the health and fitness industry for a long time. I've got a health and technology company. I've also got a lot of friends who own gyms or trainers and they want to open up studios. So I'm really interested in knowing, how do you scale businesses? How do you take an idea, template it and scale it out to a mass group or mass audience? So he's done that amazingly, as you can obviously tell by the volume of gyms that are around. The other thing is I'm interested in the franchise business model itself, because it's a hard thing to get right. It's a hard thing to manage, especially at scale. I do have clients in my other business, Zoo & Co, the consulting firm, that are in the franchise world, and it's something I'm always coming across. The challenges is something I'm always coming across. So I was interested to pick his brain on his lessons in the world of franchising. So if you are interested in the world of fitness, in business models, in franchising, and just hearing a cool story about a guy who took a chance on a brand, on a model, business model, and who became pretty damn successful at it. So with that said, let me welcome I can say he's a new friend now, Justin McDonell. So Justin, mate, what was it now? So you've got 500 gyms between Anytime Fitness, Orangetheory and Massage Envy? Is that the...
No, so our umbrella company is Collective Wellness Group.
Extend Bar.
So we have Anytime Fitness. So we've had that for 10 years. So we've reached 500 clubs at the end of 2018.
Yeah.
That'll continue to grow to about 600. Then we have Orangetheory Fitness. So that's got 15 open with plans to get to about 100.
Yeah.
And then Extend Bar, which has got 22 locations and plan to get to sort of that 100 as well.
Extend Bar. I always said Bear. Okay.
Extend Bar. Yeah.
Bar. Or I've seen them around. Actually, Pete was telling me about them. How do you know Pete?
I met Pete through Extend Bar. So he's one of the owners in the US. So all the brands we've got are under license from the US, and then we've got the
I didn't know he was one of the owners. Okay. So where I meet Pete, and so for everyone else who's listening, we have a mutual friend called Big Pete Moore. He owns a company called Integrity Square. So the way I met him was around about 3 years ago. I'd start up this online personal supplement technology business, and I'd gone to the US to start looking at getting investment. And he was doing a seminar in New York, or a talk in New York. And I was like, okay, this sounds like someone I want to meet. And I just contacted about 5 people that were doing the conference. It was one of them. He responded, and unfortunately, he was going to be in LA. No, I was going to be in LA at the time he was doing the talk. We kept in contact. We met in person about 10 o'clock at night. He's like, you come meet me at 10 o'clock at night at this bar. I was like, this is unusual. So I'd never spoken to him properly before. 10 o'clock at night at a bar, and we just started pumping these Russian mules. It's his favorite drink. And he just drunk, became friends from that point. And now every time I go to New York, whatever, we stay in contact. Yeah.
New York's a great city. Yeah.
It is a beautiful city.
Yeah.
So how did you get into gyms? Why the fitness world and gyms and clubs?
When I grew up as a kid, Dad used to play first grade football, rugby league.
Rugby league.
So he started fitness clubs when I was about 12, back in the days where it was just aerobics and weights. There was no real cardio. So kind of grew up in that. Went to uni, did 6 months of a business degree, and we opened a gym and just really stayed in it from there. Then I got involved with Fernwood, which is a women's only franchise. Worked for them for a couple of years and then become a franchisee. So I kind of had an understanding of both sides of the fitness and the franchising side from there. And then sort of seen the Anytime Fitness being growing in the US, and went and approached them, and with a couple of other founders started in Australia, and it just sort of took off and to grow and to be the largest chain. in Australia.
I was saying before we started, it was I think there's only a couple, right? Every time I turn around, there's another Anytime. So the model seems to be, you tell me if I'm wrong here, the model seems to be you go to the US, because I know Orangetheory, definitely Extend Bar, and without doubt Anytime Fitness, they're successful US franchises already. So does the model seem to be that you go over there, you find a business that's working well, then you localize it in other countries or Australia?
Yeah, because we're in franchising, there's two bits that need to work. It needs to work from the franchisee point of view, so it needs to give a return on investment for them, and it also needs to appeal to the consumers as well. And I think when Anytime launched, Fitness First were kind of dominating the market, had a bit of a good and bad name from that, and we just kind of grew mainly regional. Then we hit the metro, and we were opening across the road, and we were doing quite well, and then we just kind of grew from there.
So what you opened up because that's something I was going to bring up. I switched, like I think a lot of people at the time, from Fitness First to Anytime. Now, it would have taken some either deep knowledge or balls to open up at the time Fitness First was dominating everywhere. So how did you know Anytime? Did you know Anytime was going to work the way it did when you came here?
We didn't think it would work on the scale it has, and especially in the metro markets. When we looked at it, we went, if you go to regional Australia, the quality of the gyms is quite average. If I generalise, there's some areas where it's good. So we started in Gunnedah, which is very regional, New South Wales.
Who's famous from Gunnedah?
Miranda Kerr.
That's the one.
But she got out. So. Then Wodonga, and then up in the Hunter Valley. And we found the clubs were working. And then we opened a club in Sydney in DY, relatively high rent for what we were looking at, and we found it just worked from that. So we got the confidence that we can afford to pay more rent. Our price point, some people call us budget. We try and be in the affordable price. So we're cheaper than Fitness First, but we're not half price. So a member was, if they could train at Fitness First and pay, say, $90, they could come to us for $60. Yeah. Same level of equipment. Yeah. And you can train whenever you want. So I think the value proposition for the customer was really strong.
Right. So the idea was go regional, just start off in regional. Then you tested one out. It seemed to work in metro. And then next thing we knew, Fitness First started checking the boots. What's the model like now? So what I've noticed from my perspective, and I do speak to a few gyms from my health technology business, but the model seems to be, the industry seems to be breaking apart from the really big box gyms. You're seeing a lot more studios, a lot more, like the F45s come out, a lot more studio sort of gyms come out. What do you think that is? And do you think that this is just a fad, or?
No, we tend to follow the US in the fitness area, and they're probably the most advanced, and probably the UK as well. So you have your big box destinational clubs. Virgin Active probably do it the biggest level of that. They provide childcare, swimming pools, pretty much everything. You pay a higher price, but you drive there, you get the total experience. We're at we call it convenience end of the market, where you can literally just walk to it or drive. So most of our members come within probably a 7 or 8 minute drive or walk time. Yep. So it's quite a concentrated market.
Yep.
So convenience is our biggest selling point. When we first opened, it was really, we were well priced and convenient. We've now moved to our clubs are larger in size. We're offering group training. Our price point has increased as well. And every 5 years we refresh the whole club. So it literally gets rebuilt.
You just did another one, didn't you?
We've just launched a whole new design, and in the next 5 years, all the clubs will come up to a different standard. So it's more of a European contemporary. So we reinvest back into the facilities. It's a bit like retail, like Woolworth, Westfield make everyone refresh every 5 years. So it's kind of that same concept to keep the product fresh. A 5-year-old treadmill's pretty much had it, so it's time for a new one. Technology gets better. It's like driving a car every day for 5 years. It's not going to be great in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many clubs that you said Anytime has around about 500 now? You got Orangetheory, you said around 12. You got the Extend Bar group as well. Have you tried to bring a franchise over here that didn't work?
Yeah, we launched Massage Envy. That was our first sort of area into new brands. Right. We opened 2 corporate stores and two franchise locations. We took a product that is highly successful in the US, very profitable, been around for a long time. And when we look back at why it didn't launch successfully, it had, in the US, the brand had been through 2 lots of private equity. And when you actually went back to how did they start, all those people were gone. So we really struggled with getting enough traction of the consumer in the front door. Right. massage is perceived to either be cheap and nasty or high end in Australia. So we went in at a sort of middle price point to try and get the mindset to change that massage is part of your monthly routine. And we just didn't have enough marketing dollars to get it to launch. But ultimately, it didn't resonate with the consumer with what we were doing.
At what point do you pull the pin? Like, at what point? I'm always interested in this because you can sink yourself by being obsessed with the wrong thing. So, at what point did you go, no, this is when we have to stop?
We were reassessing what the issues were. We had people issues, so we kind of got ahead of that. Technology, we wanted members to be able to book online, which wasn't in the US, so we struggled with that for a period of time. So once we kind of ticked off the things that were controllable, we kind of went through there and we're still not getting enough leads through the front door. And I said to the marketing team, there's no budget, just spend whatever you need to get the people in. And we just couldn't work out how to activate that. So at that point, you start to go, we don't really know how to change it around. We hadn't adapted the model and the US guys, which the support was good, but they just didn't know either. So
they couldn't help you.
And we were getting further behind in our development of it, and we were kind of like, we need to make that call.
End it.
Yes.
I've done the opposite a few times before when I just mortgaged the future for the now.
Yeah.
But I've worked with franchises before. With Anytime, I'm just curious. So with Anytime and Orangetheory specifically, how much control over the technology do you guys have locally?
So we run under a master agreement. So the US, they're both a little bit different. So if I talk about Orangetheory, a lot of their what they sell is really the science and the technology of
that's their kind of proposition, right?
Yeah,
science meets fitness.
That's right.
Nice, high intensive. Yeah.
So members wear a heart rate monitor, and it all goes back through our system, and they get so many points and calories. So that's all heavily controlled by the US, and the experience in the clubs. Every workout around the world changes every day,
right,
and that comes out of the US model.
Very
so that's provided to our coaches, and they train it as well. The coaches can vary their music a little bit, but there's still it's quite prescriptive. So it's quite controlled from that point of view to keep that experience consistent. We can tweak the website a little bit more with images, but it's heavily, kind of influenced from the US. Right. Anytime we've been able to localize the website a lot more to our customer base, and then the only real technology that we're worldwide is really the door access. So members have a key fob and they can train at any club around the world. So that's controlled by the US, but
otherwise everything else is you guys.
Yeah.
So even there, because I know you guys launched, I don't know if you still have it, but I remember because we've been building an app. I remember looking into this at one point. You guys had a Anytime fitness app that you could train in your own time and things like that. So you guys built that yourselves? You launched that yourself?
No, out of the US. So what they've discovered is we're strong in the convenience side of the market, where we're trying to move into more coaching. So whether it's PTs in the club face-to-face, or it's coaching people remotely, so when they're on holidays, looking at their diet. So we're trying to sort of make that work, and we're getting good results.
I need to speak to you later about me squared and everyone. That's exactly what that is.
And then the next phase of that is we're looking at sleep and recovery and obviously nutrition. So the journey of that is through that app. There's a workout app which is available free to members, which, because we're not staffed all the time, gives them access to.
That makes sense. No, it's good that you guys are thinking like that, because this is the conversation that I've had with Me Squared and the gyms before. So I've spoken, I won't mention the names, but I've spoken to a few gyms. It was, how are you thinking about the experience and the needs of your members outside of the gym? So where are you adding more value to them and the things that they need? And also understanding that a member doesn't always stay at the same gym. A member may not always stay with that personal trainer. A member may need to, there's different goals in their lives. A member has different needs. So I like that you guys are thinking about that. I think it's pretty cool.
Like people, resistance training, weights, whatever you want to call it, is something that you need to pretty much go to a fitness center to do it. You can do some body weight stuff outside, but a treadmill, you don't need to come to the gym to run on a treadmill. You can run outside. Yeah. But with people's lifestyle, if they're working and it's dark at night, it's working out on the treadmills.
So anytime fitness, you need anytime care, right? How do I get that?
Yeah, but you don't necessarily need to come to the gym 5 days a week. It might be you come twice a week and do your weights, and you might love doing yoga and joining a yoga studio, or you're traveling.
So how are you part of all those still without losing them? Yeah.
And then how do we benefit your life? If you're like, I like snow skiing, so what do I need to do in the club and outside the club to benefit?
So who did your dad play for in the NRL?
He played for, back when it was all split up into regions, he played for North Sydney.
Is that the Bears?
The Bears,
Right.
yep. Manly, and he captained Canterbury to the grand final, but unfortunately they got second place.
So I interviewed Josh Mansour a few weeks back, and he started off actually at he tried out for the Bears, and they got absorbed into Rabbitohs. Yep. Did his Toyota Cup there, and then went to the Panthers.
Back in those days, they worked full time and then trained at night.
It's crazy.
So I think he got man of the match and got a gold watch, and the next year when he retired, the guy got a car. So it's definitely changed quite a bit.
What is he still around?
Yep.
So what does he think of you? And you and your sister are the founders of all this. So what does he think of you guys?
Very proud of what we've done. He goes and trains at any time, twice a week. So
that's great. I've got a few friends that have set up gyms in the past. And this is something that's curious to me. As someone who's been able to scale gyms, I've got a few friends, US and here, that have set up gyms in the past. Some have done pretty well, got a few hundred members, some not so well. But one thing that I've consistently found with most of my friends who've done pretty well with a few hundred members is their gym is really built around them, and they have an inability to scale that gym. How do you build the brand bigger than the individual?
I suppose with the mindset of starting with franchising, it's not about us. It's really about having systems and structure in place, and then making sure that product you're delivering aligns with the customer. So it's never really about the franchisee. It's not about me or even the guys in the US. So it's really building a business model that kind of appeals to people. And our aim was always to scale it. It wasn't to have one and have my face on it. It's really about how do we get this out to the community. So it's starting with a different mindset. I think if the gyms are all about you, how do you replicate that?
Right. And that seems to often be the case with a few guys. I mean, I don't think they've done it in that way. I think it's just become that way organically because they've started off in a small group. It's got bigger, it's bigger. And I've spoken to them. One guy's in Queensland, another one is down the coast as well. And I've just thought, how are they going to scale it beyond themselves? And something you said then about having those templates and processes in place, that makes sense because the only way you can scale anything is if you have that clear, this is the way it has to work as a formulation, the McDonald's model, right? That you can easily replicate it across. And so in franchise, as you were saying before, that's something that you look at as well when you're looking at buying a franchise, what templates they have and how's their business operate.
What's scalable, and then also what does the franchisee need to do? So we have a lot of anytime clubs in regional areas, and it's usually a local owner that gives that local community and feel to the club without the big American corporate coming in. So we've been able to utilize that really well, get the franchisee to be that face of the local business, but they know it's backed by a global brand.
I like that. What do you look for in a franchisee?
They don't have to be a personal trainer. What they need to do is believe in health and fitness. We've got franchisees that have got a sales and marketing background, or we have accountants and lawyers buying as well. So if you're an accountant, you typically love spreadsheets, which is fine. So you should sit at home and actually make sure you hire someone that actually loves people to manage the club. So it's really understanding their skills. So are they really people person with a boring accountant out the back, or flip it around?
I think that's a great pitch to buy a franchise. We have accountants that buy it. Because if they look at the numbers, it must be doing pretty well for an accountant.
They weren't in the first few years. They're coming on board now and they go, okay, this makes numbers. The numbers work for them, but they don't take the risk at the early days.
What point is there a point where there's going to be too many in an area? So, how do you manage that?
We look at that all the time. So we obviously know where our members live. We have access to where they're training. So our software kind of looks at where the members go. Early on, we opened a club very close to another one, which we thought it would be quite successful. The franchisee of the territory wasn't so sure. We still pushed ahead, and what we've proven over time is it actually increased the membership numbers in both clubs. It gives us more just penetration in the market and confidence in the consumer, and the pricing's gone up. So we've found putting them closer together has actually built our brand really strong, and it's really a property war. Like if we're not taking the property, it's one of our competitors. So we would rather our brand
that makes sense
out there.
I like that. I like that. It's you have to be present, building the brand presence, and then you have that compounding effect. If I see it anytime, everywhere I go, it's worth me being a member of it. Then collectively, you make that. You make that back. Oh, that's interesting. Are you eyeing out any other franchises that you've got to talk about?
We're always looking for new stuff.
Got to get in on the ground up.
So our title's Collective Wellness Group. So at the moment, we've got fitness brands. Whether we go more into anti-aging or wellness, we're very open to looking at that. So we're always kind of looking. Probably in the next 18 months, we're really focused on getting Orangetheory embedded into the community and Xtand Bar growing as well.
Yeah.
So
Orangetheory is a unique one for me because I come from a tech background and a fitness background, so I'm always looking at how do I marry the two worlds together. So the Orangetheory, when I came across that, I've really liked that idea. I've been able to use the science of technology in order to help the fitness and keep them accountable and so forth and so forth. What areas do you focus on? Is that more of a metro time convenience thing?
Yeah, Orangetheory is, if we take the mapping out of the US, which is what we've done, it's really into middle to high income areas and your metro areas. So you're really looking at, it's predominantly more of a female clientele. I train at the one near my house, and depending on the time of the day, it varies. So there's a 5 a.m., which I don't quite get to that one. 5, 6 and 7 is predominantly, might be couples that are working. Then you've got 9:30, 10:30. It's more your mums or your stay-at-home wives who are there.
Yeah.
And then you've got your after-work crowd. So it's quite a varied sort of workout, and a lot of people that's the boutique fitness range might go to Orangetheory. They might also go to Anytime or Fitness First and do their weights there, or they might go to yoga.
That makes sense.
A lot of them have 2 memberships in that market, and it's a higher price point.
Right.
So you're closer to the $250, $300 a month versus Anytime at $60. So it's a different price proposition,
right?
And it's also class driven. So you have to book in, turn up at a specific time. So it's quite a different.
It's interesting that because of this dissemination of gyms and studios becoming more boutique and studioized, whatever you want to call that word, how people are accessorizing and packaging their own fitness together. So I know people that would have an Anytime pass and an F45 pass. Same sort of reason as you said with Orangetheory. They go there for their group classes, whatever they need, and they have their weights that they can access anytime as well.
Yes. That's really the trend that's happening in the US. And if you go to New York, you'll have an Extend Bar, a Soul Cycle class. There's rowing classes. Like there's whole different studios that people just go, and they're paying top dollar for that experience. So it's not just like going to the gym and doing your weights. It's actually going more for a workout and an experience. The lighting's done well, the sound system's well. The coaches are high energy, and
I loved it. I went to Pete Moore, took me to Soul Cycle.
Yep.
And for my first Soul Cycle experience, I was not really want to go, but he dragged me along there. I loved it.
Yeah.
Do you think it would work here?
I'm personally not a cycling fan indoors, so I'm probably a little bit not the right person to ask.
For me, it's spandex. Forget about it.
But Soul Cycle does it's huge in the US.
Massive.
For the number of locations they've got, everyone knows about it. Yeah. So it should work. When we look at things, we look at how many can we scale in the country, and I don't know if you can just do 10 in Australia or you can do 100.
Right.
So that's probably
the one thing I thought about there was how much I enjoyed it, but I don't think I would enjoy it in Australia. So what made the experience so good for me was the coach.
Yeah.
And the girl that we had, she was so enthusiastic and very outgoing, as Americans are.
Yep.
Very over the top, very into it, very loud, very full of energy. And had this whole hip hop theme and urban theme about it. It was amazing. But I'm not sure if I could grab that authenticity and pull it over to Australia. I just don't know if I could replicate
what they've done. They do auditions, and a lot of people that are coaches are actually actors or wanting to get into that space, and they actually take classes as well. So they educate them in how to do the workout. Whereas Australia traditionally goes, okay, you're a great trainer from a technical point of view, but do you have a personality? And some do and some don't. So it's a different flip.
So Orangetheory is trainer led as well, right? So you still.
Yeah, so we have a coach. So they obviously need technical skills, but we've just been accredited with Fitness Australia that we can do our own courses and get accreditation. So we're now looking for the personality that, because to coach people, you need to be able to be in front of 40 people, but also turn off your mic and go and motivate me personally. Or if I'm struggling on the treadmill, how do I engage with them, plus put on a performance for the group of 40 people? So
right.
It's quite
so what's that course that you're doing through Fitness Australia? So what's a coaching course, is it?
Yeah, so our coaches are educated on basic biomechanics, and all our training, all our course prescription comes out of the US.
Yeah.
So they literally just need to fulfill that, and just know how to modify if people do have injuries.
Okay, great. And so you've also expanded into the UK. Is that right? That's right. I was just trying to stalk you on something, LinkedIn or something.
So I've been involved with Anytime Fitness in the UK for 8 years. So there's 5 different partners in that one. So it's a different kind of head department. We've got 165 clubs open over there, which actually makes us the second biggest chain in the UK.
Jeez.
So still growing over there.
Why did you decide to? Because there's a lot. You got a lot going on. What made you just? How do you manage this?
Back when I made that decision, we just had Anytime in Australia, so I was really doing the same thing in another country that spoke English.
I could do that. It's working.
So I kind of went, okay, that's fine. So I got quite good at frequent flyer. At one stage, I was going over there for 2 weeks and coming back. So every 2 weeks, I was on a plane. So I got quite good in that time in how to be organised, take use of that time, and kind of manage my diary.
Yeah.
So
and now that was then, and now you also have these other 2 big brands underneath the collective. So how are you managing your time?
So my title's chairman at the moment. So I look more at the strategy, and I love numbers. So I'll put my head into more of the spreadsheets. We've got a CEO that is great. So he kind of runs all of that component. And then there's a general manager under each brand that just knows that brand. And then we have a shared services model. So we have finance, legal. I call it all the boring stuff that can go across any brand, run as a different department as well. So we've been able to scale it.
That you've done something that I think most entrepreneurs are striving for. So it's the ability to scale yourself, right? So you're no longer having to deal with the day-to-day of every little thing. You've been able to remove yourself out, put the people in place, and still have things running the way that they should be.
And things don't always run the way you would do them. So it's kind of accepting that that's probably not the way I would do it, but if the outcome is the same or better, that's okay. So taking your ego out of it and trying to go, okay, this is the result we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
The CEO knows what we're trying to achieve. He'll just go about it a different way. But what I see now is things are done better, and he's doing things at a higher level than what I can do. I haven't got a skill set. We've got 65 people in the office. I can't manage. That's not where that excites me and drives me.
When you first stepped out of that role and bestowed it to someone else, how did you manage your ego and emotions then? That's something I've definitely struggled with in the past.
It's quite hard to give the reins to someone else. My other business partners were thinking I was going to explode. I was doing lots of travel, probably too much. So they didn't think that was sustainable. So they kind of, probably over a 6-month period, kind of convinced me that I needed to let go. I then sort of spent more time in the UK. So I think being out of the country and out of the office actually helped. And not actually going into the office.
Yeah.
Actually just going, you just need to let it go.
Yeah.
And
creating that distance and just seeing that things still kept on rolling.
Yeah, you still need to check in with what's going on, but you need to accept that things are different, and unless you want to do it all yourself.
And do you have a partner, kids?
Yeah, no, my wife and I love skiing, so we've decided we don't want to have kids because that would affect our life too much. And love traveling as well.
Yeah.
So we do lots of traveling.
And so how long have you been with your wife for?
Been together for 15 years.
Oh, wow. So she was with you through all of this then?
She's seen the good and the bad times, the stress. So she's a chemical engineer. So she used to work on mine site. So she would do 10 days on the mine, then have a week off. So I would do all my traveling in that 10-day period.
Oh, so you synchronise the...
Yeah, so it kind of worked quite well. But
wow,
she's not doing that anymore, which is nice.
That's good. That's good. I always, whenever I see people that have done well with their businesses, I'm always curious about if they have a partner, how they've managed that. Because one of the things that I've found time and time again, not just from myself, but other people that I speak to with what I do, one of the hardest challenges is balancing their relationships inside and outside of work because of the pressures of building a business.
You definitely need a supportive partner, and her parents had quite a lot of restaurants, so she comes from that understanding how to build business, and just really, if I need something, she's very supportive of that. So now we travel quite a bit together, which is good. So we've kind of just have very similar things that excite us. So
yeah, it's good. Whereabouts do you guys travel to?
So we spent the US in the States. We're off to Japan on Monday.
Skiing
for a couple of weeks. And then we go to the UK a couple of times a year. So we try and add on a bit of a European trip on top of that, which is good. And then a lot of time in the US just with back and forth with conferences and just try and tack on a bit of free time on the end, see the world. So
when you're not working, you're skiing, or what else we do? What else do the McDonald's do?
Skiing. I do like to exercise. So I try and do Orangetheory twice a week, and then weights probably 2 or 3 times a week as well. So I need that for my brain.
He does weights at Fitness First, by the way.
No, I've actually got a gym in my house, so I do that. So
yeah, nice. What do you have in the house? Backbones.
We have a cable machine and a squat rack and a spin bike, a lot of sort of dumbbells,
everything you need,
basic balls and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, nice.
So it's good.
You know what's going crazy at the moment? Of course, you know what I'm talking about. What I've seen that's been crazy at the moment is those Peloton bikes.
They're doing when I was in the States, they were just advertising all the time on TV. They're meant to be a great bike, and the programming's really good. So it's huge. So
what is it? It's like it's your at-home spin class that's connected to a network of other trainers, isn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, so it started as a spin bike with live classes, or you could go into classes. I think they're now expanding it into other fitness realms, and the customer pays a monthly subscription. So it's kind of like paying for Foxtel or one of those.
Right.
So
competing over eyeballs again. Great.
Yeah, there's a lot of competitors in that
market.
Home fitness space or the apps. That's huge.
One of the things that you said before was that your wife has been with you for the good times and the bad, or not so good, we would just say it there. What were some of the rough times that you guys would have had?
Probably the rough times. Starting out, we were literally a small team, so there was 3 people, and you wear multiple hats. So you're trying to do everything. I was doing property. I'm not a property person, so learning that. And then also dealing with franchisees. So franchising is good, and it's challenging at sometimes as well, because you're trying to protect the brand and you've got entrepreneurs who want to build the business, and sometimes you need to say it's not on brand, you can't do that. So it's balancing that through. And then if they do have a problem, they're straight on the phone to you as well. So how do you manage that? There was times where you'd literally get phone calls and texts and stuff like all over the weekend. And in the end, it's like you just can't keep doing that. You've got to be accessible to people, but there's got to be that balance of that. So probably the traveling. And then as we were growing, we were just hiring people, and they were fine when we hired them, but you'd let them go, and 6 months' time you go, what the hell are they doing? Like, we hadn't upskilled them. We probably should have hired someone at a higher level. So we burnt through a lot of good people, and it's partly our fault as well. So that was really challenging, and just managing probably the growth, that was the hardest bit. It was just...
It's a good problem to have, that part.
Great problem, but it was out of control. Like 1 year we opened 100 locations. So literally every week there was 2 clubs opening. So
how do you manage growth at that scale? Like what?
We've got an in-house dedicated property team. So they were just pumping through clubs, but how do we get to so many around the country? We weren't flying to every opening and doing that. Like early on, I knew every franchisee, I knew all the sites, whereas you just can't do it at that scale. So I think we let go because we had to.
Yeah.
Just couldn't.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
So the franchise problem, the franchisee problem, does that ever go away? Because we've worked with, and I'll say this in my past. No. I was going to say, we worked with Pizza Hut as a past client.
Yep.
I don't know if I get in trouble for saying that, but same issue. And I think most franchise models will have that. It's just managing the franchisees.
Yeah. There's a thing called the franchisee life cycle, which is when they buy, they're all excited and it's going to be great. In all our brands, it takes probably 6 to 9 months to get a location open. So you kind of have this doubt period. We've trained them. Sometimes they've forgotten some of it by the time they start. Then they start and then they're running and they're quite excited. They get to a point, if their business is quite successful, where they think, why am I paying franchise fees? And head office don't know anything. And they think it's all about them. Then they get to a point where hopefully that'll change and they understand it's like a marriage. It's a mutual benefit. There's good and bad, but generally you're heading in the right direction. Or they literally don't get out of that and they just hate us and it's time to part ways. So it's kind of this cycle of understanding the relationship, because you're running your own business, but you've got rules put on top of you. And we're the same. We've got the US guys saying you can do this, you can't do that. So we're in the middle as well, which sometimes make it easy for us to say no, because we say the US said you can't do it. But it's picking the right people, but you've also got their personal partner, their business partners in the background that maybe we're not communicating with. So you've got these people in the background that sometimes
influencing the conversation, the relationship.
So the approach we take is we want the business to be successful. We want the franchisee to make money, because if they're making money, they're happy.
Yeah.
If they're not making money, they're going to blame us.
Right.
So we get that. So we try and really focus on that store or location needs to be successful.
Right. And what sort of I've always been, I suppose a lot of people are like this, I think anyway, I've always been lured by the concept of a franchise from the perspective of you're buying, if it works, if template works, you just got to replicate the template.
Correct.
And then it's going to generate an income for you. So I'm looking at it from an investment perspective. If I can buy this, run out that template, I should get X amount of returns back. What sort of training do you typically suggest or provide when in that early stages when you just bought a franchise? What sort of, have you worked out the sweet spot of how much you need to give someone, what you need to do?
The anytime approach in the early days was they call it the fire hose approach, which is just give as much information as you can, and then you kind of work it out. We've told you, and off you go. Yeah. We've kind of changed that a bit to be filtering it through. So our property team and our mapping guys will work really well with the franchisee on where is the best location. And sometimes I've been to locations that are highly successful. They're in the right area, but it's probably not on the high street or the main retail bit.
Yeah.
But it's in the right convenient location. So it's getting that property right is really key, and we assist with that component.
Yeah.
And then the other key is how quickly does a business start? Are you doing pre-sale, and are you a salesperson who can generate anything from 50 to 300 members before you open the doors, and you kind of get that roll-on effect? So it's really that people skill. If I look at why they fail, it's generally the people. It's whether the franchisee doesn't hire the right manager, doesn't pay them, doesn't treat them right. But it's a people business. Like, you've got to sell a membership to get members in the door and then look after them. And the basics, such as, is the club really clean all the time? Is the equipment working all the time? Which sounds really basic, but if you don't do that, the members get pissed off, and
then it all starts showering.
Yeah.
And then even starts tarnishing the brand as well, right? So you guys have to be able to manage that. And the other thing you said as well, one of the pitfalls you made at the beginning is hiring the wrong people, or the people that maybe should have waited out for. So they should have waited out for some a bit better. What did you learn from the hires you got wrong?
It's probably trying to work out how many people do you need in the organisation for the size, and then looking at where are you going. So really we should be looking at an org structure based on the size versus I hired someone and they're really good at this, so I'll give them these tasks to do.
Right.
And then we hire someone else. So we shouldn't base roles around the people. It should be, what does a business need? What skills do we need, and what pay rate do we need to pay to get it? We just need to be more strategic, which we are now. But back in the days, you kind of go, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll put
someone
them in.
sells themselves well. Oh, you'd be great for that role.
Yeah, you meet them and you go, great, that's good. And so they weren't all bad people and they weren't all bad hires. But if I look at, if we were better at our where are we going with strategy, which we spend a lot of time on that now. But previously you just
happens
making it up.
So many horror stories. I hired this one guy once who, it was funny. He saved me out of a really difficult situation that happened. I won't go into a long story of that. And so I had a lot of trust in him because he did a great thing for me in a short notice. And the next thing I know, he's stealing from us. I'm thinking, what? How does this even happen? Another friend of mine, he's got an agency, a digital agency, and he was telling me that he had this one guy that was stealing all his knives from the office. Like, how did this sort of stuff even happen? I think hiring people is a strange thing. You put a lot of, especially when it's your own business, because in a way it's your baby and you want them to care about it as much as you do, but you know that they never will. And something you said before, which just kind of resonated, was along the lines of that, right? Is you can't expect someone to do the things the way that you do things. And I think a lot of that comes down to you as a business leader, to say, well, okay, I have to be okay with that. What is good enough? What is good enough for my expectations? And these people might even exceed that. They might, like you said before, do things in a way better than what you could even do them.
Like we did probably about 12 months ago, real values on what do we want out of the company.
Yeah.
And a few of the things are we want them to think like owners and not just owners being myself and my business partners, but also the franchisees as well. So would you waste that money? Like, how do you think proactively? Another one is, a theme is do it. Like, just get shit happening. Like,
is this the corporate office?
This is our corporate office. So there's really values on giving them a scope of where they can make decisions. We're a franchise, so we've got to have rules, but can we not bend them, but can we be more flexible based on their circumstance? Because if they come to me, I'd probably understand. So it's really getting them to try and think about the customer and not about ticking my boxes on my job and pushing it and really looking to the future on where's the industry going, what are they seeing, and how do they bring that back to their job?
I like that. So it's the entrepreneur sort of style, right? Is how do I treat this like it's my business? What would I do in this situation?
And trying to understand where they want to be. Like, if they come in as the graphic designer, are they happy with that job, or do they actually want to progress through to something? So if we can help them do that in our organisation, or maybe they're with us for 2 years and then we know it's a step. So trying to work on their career path as well. And really that younger generation, if they're with you 2 years, that's a long time for them. So let's be okay with that.
I like that. And that's something that I've heard recently as well. But I like that. You're the only one of two people that I've heard mention that, is that transparency in understanding that, especially the younger generation, they're going to leave. So address it. And if you're going to leave, that's okay. How can we help you in your career path?
Yeah. How can we upskill you so you move on to a better job, or you want to move overseas, or whatever you want to do? So
that honesty in conversation makes sense, because you rather know and see it coming then they just pull the rug out underneath you and you say, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, and we have staff that have moved through and now they're running brands. So is their career aspiration to be a GM? Okay, well, what skills do you need? You need to work on these. Let's work with you on developing it. Get to a point. Yep, let's move you on to that role, or unfortunately, you're going to stay where you are.
Oh, I love that. Go, you guys. And okay, let's talk about for a moment Fitness Australia. So you're on the board there?
The board, yep.
Yeah, okay. How do you see the health of Australian fitness, at least from an industry perspective?
I've been on the board of Fitness Australia for about 5 years. So they register the personal trainers and group exercise instructors. That's one part of their business. That has been declining over the years. Not to mean that there's less personal trainers.
No.
It's just why do they need to belong? Yeah. So we're addressing as to how do we appeal probably to the next generation coming through, and we're doing a lot of strategy on where we need to reposition that. So that's one piece getting worked on that's not quite there yet. And then we also look after the health club, so the gym, so they're actually members of that. That side of the business is quite solid and quite strong from that point of view. But we're really looking at, are we looking purely at the fitness industry, or how do we help our members run better businesses?
I like that.
So Anytime's a member. So what we need is quite different to an independent club that might need some more business skills or marketing help. So it depends on the size of the business as to what they need.
Yeah.
So we're just really looking at, it needs to be realigned, which the board and customers know.
Yeah.
And then really moving into the next century, because more people need to exercise.
Yeah, well, 100%. I think the problem's getting worse, and we need to solve it. So there's basically a problem in the health epidemic around this country and a country similar. The challenges that I see a lot, and you can echo it or comment on it, is so a lot of people going into health and fitness are seeing what non-credited people on social media, Instagram and so forth are doing and generating income from it, and looking to do that. So my concern and my fear is the quality of the authority, we'll call it in air quotes, is diminishing, and more people are jumping on that. So that's definitely a concern of mine that seems to be coming up a lot.
It's getting that balance right. So Fitness Australia have traditionally come from, you need to meet this criteria to be a member.
Yeah.
And if you are a member, you'll be doing the right thing. And then you have all these people coming up doing whatever they want, but they can market themselves well.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance right. And Fitness Australia have struggled with, should they be the police with, you've got to be this standard, or are we missing a whole market that are going direct to consumer? So it's a debate that we have in the...
Well, controlling the standards. So the idea of Fitness Australia, from my understanding, is basically trying to control standard, right? So you make sure that if you go to a PT and they belong to Fitness Australia, you know that there's this level of quality assurance. They've done the Cert 3, done Cert 4, they've got their insurances, and they've had to have met some sort of requirement in order to do that, and that's fantastic. You don't have to be part of Fitness Australia if you've done your Cert 3 and Cert 4, if I'm correct, which is something that is emerging much more now. But you also have these people that aren't even doing their certs and are positioning themselves as fitness experts and going out there and generating income and selling propaganda. So I do, although I'm not a stickler for authority, I do believe there has to be more control. So I do like the idea of having an organization that controls the standard that exists. And one thing you said before, which I definitely hope is pushed more, is that these standards encourage more businesses, the more personal trainers and these fitness experts to learn about being a business in the modern world. How do they position themselves in the social media landscape? How do they generate an income? How do they scale what they do so they don't leave the industry after a year or 2 years?
Correct. Yeah, we've got different packages for smaller businesses, and we're about to launch a boutique offering, which is a cheaper membership, and offers some business skills. There's a lot of employment laws coming in that you need to be paying, obviously, your staff the right way, have the right contracts. As a Fitness Australia member, that's provided free through a legal team. So it's really that resource of how do I tap into covering my ass, but also building a better business from that point of view as well. Another part of the standards is really making sure the trainers are going back and getting more education every year, and that's part of their CEC component. Because I can be a personal trainer today, but in 10 years' time, so much science and research comes out, and we want to make sure everyone's updated with all that sort of research and they're using best technology and best technique.
Yeah.
So
that's what a doctor does. That's what anyone in a health profession would do.
Yeah, so we're trying to get it up to that level, but it's getting that balance right at the right time.
At the same time, the business models are changing. So you have the online coaching world. You have this whole world for themselves are changing. So even the gyms that they used to work at are changing. When I did my cert in 2004, basically you got your certificate, you go to a gym, and that's your career. You just and then you might build it up and you can start doing outdoor fitness. But that basically was it. You'd walk into a gym, say who needs me, and you start. Now, because the gym models are changing, you have these studio classes, you have these people making money just from doing it online. The whole world itself is changing. So it's going to be interesting to see how we adjust from an industry perspective to the needs of the people entering it.
Yeah, and with all the industry changing, hopefully there is more people exercising, so there's more consumers. I went to Orangetheory getting changed in the change room, and the guy, I said, do you like it? And he goes, it's great, but I don't like going to the gym. So he's not seeing Orangetheory like a gym. So these boutique studios are appealing to a different clientele. Outdoor boot camp, I think it's awful. I've done a few and I don't want to be covered in mud and shit. It's not for me, and that's fine. But other people love it and don't want to go inside to a club. So it's having different offerings to appeal to more people just to get them moving and get them active and living longer.
No, I think it's great. I think what you guys are doing great as well is you're making, at least I haven't used Xtand Barre, so I don't know much about that world, but from what I've seen of Orangetheory, and I definitely know Anytime, both are disruptors in the status quo. I don't know if you picked them because of that or what it was, or if it's just by nature of it being something different. That's what made the business model attractive, or what it was. But both are being disruptors and both are making health and fitness more accessible.
Yeah, we're interested in products that can scale across the country. Not interested in just looking after, 10 clubs in Sydney. It's really about what can we scale across the country to get that brand recognition and get people going, I'll give that a go. Yeah. Most people that I recommend to go and try Orangetheory end up signing up, and I don't let the club know that they're coming. It's just there's something about it that appeals to people.
That environment, the accountability is the other part, right?
I think it's the accountability, because you've got the monitor on and you get a score, and I'll look and I go, okay, that person next to me is not working as hard as me, or I'm working harder than them. And then other people just compare themselves. So it's got that personal accountability and then that competitive nature. So depending on what type of person you are, it seems to hook you in, which is...
I think I'm that person, definitely. We did this research a while ago. We took it from the Western Sydney University, but they did a bunch of research into these gyms, and what they found out that in a structured and accountable environment, your adherence rates go up by 80%. So you're more likely to stick to what your goal is over a 3-month period if you have some level of structure, so do this, and someone or something keeping you accountable, making sure you're tracking along the way.
Yeah. And I think with Xtend Bar and Orangetheory, you've got to make an appointment. Like you book online, it's quite easy, but you've made that a time to go, and you don't really want to cancel it. Whereas normal club, like Anytime, for instance, it's up to me to go, I'll go after work. Work continues on a bit too late. I'm tired. I don't go. So I think that ability to book in and knowing that the instructor hopefully knows your name and there's a bit of an environment there, it's a motivator to get them.
You've committed to it. You don't want to let people down. I think there's this innate need for people to not let others down.
Correct.
And it's part of why personal training often works well with clients, because I don't want to let my personal trainer down. And it's also what's a big motivator in fear. I've talked about this with Mark, the guy from Netflix the other week, and we were saying that even with business owners, one of the things that they fear the most is letting people down, letting their customers down, letting their business partners down, letting their staff down, and letting their wife or partners down. And that's so
accountability is huge. Yeah. And even our business metrics in our business, we get a flash report 2 days at the end of the month for what's happened. So it's not just P&Ls; it's other key metrics. Good
data. Now, how are you guys using data differently today than what you were, say, 5 years ago?
We're looking at. So previously, and we still do look at it, it's historical data. So the month's finished, we've got the results, which is great. You hit it or you didn't hit the target, but you can't change it. So we're now looking at lead measures, so things for the future and projecting forward. If we continue with the way we're going, where are we going to end up? And then what are we doing if something's down to change it? So we're looking more into the future to predict where we're going to be.
From a financial modelling perspective?
Yeah, it might be our P&L, it might be how many clubs we got open, how many members do we have in the club. So it's really, if we keep doing what we're doing, are we getting the result we want? And then what are we going to change?
In order to...
so if we want to get more sales in the clubs, we need more leads. And if we get more leads, what's the conversion rate? So is it a training issue? Is it a marketing issue? We're doing more predicting forward.
Right. And do you guys have like a data science team, someone looking at that sort of stuff? Or just
our finance team have been doing it. We've actually just hired a data analyst who starts, I think, Monday, to really start pulling data apart. And then our marketing company we work with does a lot of data analytics. Yeah. So they scrape websites and
all that other fun stuff,
competitors and all that stuff. There's so much cool stuff you can get. That's
ask them to check out Looker. It's an app, a business intelligence platform called Looker. It's really, really good. So it allows you to pull in all data from all different areas and visualize it in a way that makes sense to your business.
Yeah, great.
It's really good. I definitely suggest that.
I'll let them know.
And what about how you're using data to understand more about the customer itself?
We need to get more into probably the consumers we're not getting. We're quite good with the consumers we've got. So we know where they live and we know their, not income, but we've got a good idea of our core customer. Right. It's probably the one of, and the whole industry's got this issue. When they leave the club, where do they go? Do they go and join another club? Do they stop exercising altogether? Yeah. And I think as an industry, we need to understand why the hell did they leave? Was it just that they moved, or were they not happy with the service? Did they not get results? Was it too expensive? We just don't know.
And do you guys have data? I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this or not, but do you guys have access to the data of all the members across all the clubs?
We do.
So you could see, unlike many other types of gyms which don't have your sort of scale, the migration of members going between location to location.
Yeah, so there's 520,000 current members in paying membership fees, and then there's a percentage that will train in other clubs, and then if over a 2-month period they train in another club more than their home club, they automatically get transferred to the club. So some members do get transferred quite a bit. I think it's around 10% of the database kind of use the reciprocal access.
Oh, that's 52,000. That's a decent amount.
Yeah, so it's quite a lot.
So I would imagine your retention rates are decent compared to some of the other gyms then?
Yeah, we use a billing company that does other companies as well, and they tell us our retention rate is higher than the other clubs. We also look at average length of stay. So our average customer stays with us about 18 months.
What's the industry average? Do you know what the industry average is?
If you're a no contract club, it's about 6 months is what we're told. So we promote a 12-month contract with Anytime. The other brands, it's month by month. So we find, we're getting about 18 months, which is good.
Yeah, it seems pretty good, because one of the indicators of health, not just of a business but of the individual, is obviously the retention and repetition rate. So if I'm coming back, it means that I'm using the thing, which means that I should be getting healthier. And if I'm staying in what I'm doing, it means I'm sticking to my goal as well. So I'm looking at it from the other perspective, not so much from the business, but from the health outcomes perspective. What is this actually doing?
I think it's why do people keep their membership? They've got to be using it. Like if you're paying $10 a month and you're not using it, it's still a waste of $10. So it's not really about the price, it's about the value. So if you're paying $55, $60 a month, coming twice a week, it's good value. I just went and paid $4 for a cup of coffee and it's gone in 10 seconds. So there's really quite good value, but they need to make the effort, and then they need to get a benefit out of it. They need to feel better. They need to start looking better as well.
And is this what's going to tie back to the technology play about how are you looking to add more value to your members?
It's really looking for people to get results. They need to exercise, but they need to eat better. They need to sleep well. So it's really about the total well-being of living longer and living better, not just prolonging your life to 100. It's like living well, and you need a lot of factors in that component to do that.
How important is that to you? Because if you take the very binary view of this is a business, it's looking pretty healthy, I don't need to have my members becoming better versions of themselves, healthier and whatever else. They're paying us money, they're doing well, we can keep on growing. But what you just said then means that you're taking more of a moral ground, saying, okay, we're still growing and fine, but how else can we improve the health of people?
I think there's two bits. There's obviously you want to help people, and all our brands do. We're not flogging donuts, destroying the world. So I think that's good. Any brand to stay relevant and move forward, like Apple, you've got an Apple laptop here. They keep reinventing their products and their offering to the customer as well. So I think we're quite conscious that we can't just do what we're doing today in 10 years' time, because we'll be irrelevant. The competitors will eat us up. So it's trying to be ahead of keeping people engaged with wanting to go to the gym. The treadmills do get better. Like 10 years ago, there wasn't internet and cool stuff on there. Now you can walk through something in New Zealand and through the park. There's so many cool things coming. So we need to make sure that's fresh, so the customers are excited and want to keep coming in. And then also look at everyone's on their phone all the time. So you've got to have a bit of that space as well, just to get your connection to the brand. And get it extending that brand beyond those corners of the gym. Correct. Because they're only, even if you come 3 times a week, it's 3 hours. Okay. How are we connecting with you the rest of the time?
Yeah. And that's where most of the changes to your health is actually going to happen. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
It's reality is what am I doing?
It's food, really.
Yeah.
Food's a huge
eating
factor.
And like you said, it's all sleep. If you don't have a good sleep, you're not going to eat well the next day. You're probably not going to go to the gym.
Correct.
So you got to get that right as well.
Yep. It's getting all the pieces
to make sense.
Correct.
Okay, so one of the questions that I like to ask my guests is, what mistake in your career has taught you the most?
Mistake, probably. People are the real difference in making something. You can have a great business plan. We had a very clever CEO who had a great structure for the organisation. But he lacked that ability to engage the people and understand that people drove the process. So it's great to have a nice business plan, but people bring it to life. So it's really that connecting the two dots. You've got to have good structure, but probably good people are out to a good structure short term. So it's really getting that value of the people, looking after them, rewarding them, and letting them go. Yeah.
That's definitely the hard part.
Yeah.
I was saying before.
Have faith.
Let them grow.
Correct.
Now, if you could speak to your younger self, what 3 values or principles would you want to tell yourself to make sure you keep and or have?
I think from my parents, I've always had work hard. That's always been there. And I'd still have that. I think a lot of people think life's quite easy and you're successful because you met a few right people. It's not like that. You actually need to have good work ethic from that. I think you need to be honest and honest with yourself, as a lot of people kind of feel they should be privileged into something. So it's being, and self-aware are probably the other bits, like knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. Like I can sell memberships and I can manage people, but I find it quite draining. Like it just, I don't get energy from it. So instead of sticking to that role, go, okay, someone else can do that better. Where are my skills? How can I support them? So it's really being self-aware of that. They call it emotional intelligence or whatever, but it's really,
that makes sense.
A lot of people, some people struggle with that concept of.
That makes a lot of sense. I think ego gets in the way a lot of people.
It does.
They think that I should be CEO or I should be the best at everything.
Yep.
And that makes sense. It's being self-aware to the point of what am I not the best at? And my role should be to be able to find the people that are better at the things that I'm not good at.
Yeah. And really trying to look at where do you get energy, but where do you feel good? Like what excites you? And if you're not in the right job or business, maybe work towards changing it because you're not going to be
motivated and wake up and kill it. And what excites you? What gets you going now, especially that you've done so much?
There's a balance between do we just keep going and keep I don't know, working 100 hours a week, but I'm probably more now, okay, I want to work smart. So on my phone, I don't have email on there. I have to turn it on. So when I get up in the morning, it's not just email reacting to what's happened overnight. So I try and be really structured. I turn on the email, hopefully on the computer, deal with all that, be proactive with that. So really planning my life, making sure I get exercise in and probably blocking when I do exercise. So if I go skiing, I don't turn off the computer for a week. I'll literally in the afternoon do a couple of hours of work, organise phone calls if I need to do. So I just don't answer the phone all the time.
Yeah. So you block time for work. Is that usually at what time would you block those hours out?
Depending. So my wife likes to sleep. So if we're traveling, it'll be probably early in the morning. So I might get up at 6 and work through to 8 or 9. Then we go out and enjoy the day. So it's really making it productive versus reacting to all the emails and the shit that people want you to do, taking control of that.
Yeah. Then it starts taking over your day and your life.
And then having some time to actually plan and think. So I like flying on the Qantas planes overseas because there's no internet.
Yeah.
Literally you have to think and plan the future as well. So,
do you schedule time out during the year to do your own planning or days?
I probably do it every week, to be honest. Yeah. What we're trying to do even in our company is making sure people have quiet time where their emails are turned off and they're actually thinking of being productive versus reactive and just doing their job. So, I will do that every week.
Right. So you have your planning that you'll do every week. Every morning you'll have your emails turned off on your phone, which is allowing you to turn it back on. When would your workday usually start? In a normal weekday.
This morning the laptop one was on at about 7:30. Then I went and did a workout and then sort of come and met with you. So it varies day to day. Right. I don't mind getting up early. I think it's good to do that. But then it might be I've got a bit of free time in the afternoon and then I might be on email at 6 at night. So it can vary in other nights.
Do you turn off at night? Do you have like an off phase?
I never used to. I used to, when an email was on my phone, I'd go and set my alarm for the night, see a pile of emails and stand there responding to them, which I think a lot of people do. So, usually by 10 o'clock, 10:30. I'm trying to be at bed.
Try it. Yeah. That's something that I've been trying to do, been borrowing that from a few people that have been recommending it, is just the last hour of my night, I try to have no devices. So no laptops, no phone, no nothing, just to disassociate myself with that stuff and allow myself to be kind of more present in whatever the mindless thing is that I'm doing.
Yeah, I try that. It doesn't always.
always
work.
I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist out of it.
And we do lots of work dinners and stuff like that. So quite often you'll still be meeting people at night time, which is social, but it's kind of a bit.
I would have get you to come to one of our round table dinners.
Yeah, we'll just find a time that suits.
You got to come. They're real cool. They're really, really good. It's all for that sort of stuff.
Right.
Okay, well, I will let you enjoy the rest of your day, Justin. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your stories with us. And we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.